Hello everyone, welcome to part 3 of S3. This is our agenda. We'll see lifecycle management, storage class analysis, cross-region replication, how encryption happens in S3, and how server access logging can be helpful for monitoring and audit purpose. We have already got a glimpse of pricing per storage class. Standard is the costliest one and Glacier is the cheapest. Standard infrequent access and reduced redundancy storage falls in between. Having said that, you know that value of data diminishes over time, right? For example, suppose you are watching Big Bang Theory, which is season 1 to season 11 as of now, if I'm not wrong. If you follow this series, you'll be watching the latest season or season 11 more often than any other, which means episodes from older seasons will not be watched or accessed as often. One more example. Suppose you are storing your application or database log files to S3. As those files get older, they lose their value for analysis. In a nutshell, older files lose relevance. It will not make a cost-effective proposition if we keep all those files in storages with the same price tag. That means keeping older files in, say, high-speed SSDs along with new data is not cost-effective or logical at all. To offset this cost, typically what we do is we move older files to lesser fancier storage devices. Also, we create an automation feature around this so that the older files are moved automatically to the lower tiered storage devices. Lifecycle management can be very useful here because it handles all of these for us. Moving data to lower cost storage or even deleting them automatically after a certain time can be done using lifecycle management. Lifecycle management works at bucket level and it enables to perform certain actions to objects based on rules which we create. Rules are something where we mention when to perform certain action on objects of a bucket. Each rule is associated with an action. Two types of actions are possible. First one is transition, wherein objects are transitioned from one storage class to another. For example, higher cost storage band to lower cost. If you have your object in standard or reduced redundancy storage class, they can be moved to standard infrequent access, or standard storage class can be moved to Glacier directly. But before transitioning data from one storage class to another, you should keep those objects for at least a few days in a particular storage class. Transition can be done for all object versions. Same is the case with expiration, which can be done for all object versions. Using expiration, objects can be automatically deleted after a certain period of time. You just set up the rules when to transition or expire. S3 lifecycle management will automatically take care of all those things. No need for a separate automation layer to perform all these operations. Let's see how to manage lifecycle rules using console. Let us go ahead and see how lifecycle is managed or how transitioning and expiration is managed in S3. Go to the bucket, click on management. Here the first option is lifecycle. Click on add lifecycle rule. This is where you'll manage the transitions and expirations. You'll have to create a rule ID, so give it a name. In add filter, you can add prefix or tags. I'll not add any prefix or tags as of now. The first one is transition. So do you want to set up transition for all versions or only for the current versions? Typically, you would select previous and current version both depending on your use case. Then you can add transition here. So you can select what transition do you want to enable. Transition from standard to standard infrequent access or transition from standard to Amazon Glacier. This is for the current version. We are saying that after 30 days, transition the storage class of my current versions to standard infrequent access storage class. In the bottom option, you have to add transition for the previous version. So you are saying that for the previous versions, transition them from standard storage class to Amazon Glacier after 60 days. These days after would be considered from the day when object was created. That means this transition would happen after 30 days of object creation and this transition would happen after 60 days of object creation. Click on next and then you can add expiration rule. In expiration rule, similar to transition, you can enable it for current version or previous versions. So it is saying When do you want to automatically delete the current version objects? You can mention that delete these objects after 90 days, and for previous versions you want to delete it after 120 days. So it is saying that after 90 days of object creation, the current version objects should be deleted, and the previous version object should be deleted after 120 days from becoming a previous version. Click on next and then save. So I've added this lifecycle rule. You can edit this lifecycle rule whenever you want. You can delete this rule, and then you can disable this lifecycle rule if you don't want it anymore. Before creating or modifying transition or expiration rules, you need to know how objects in your buckets are accessed so that you can take some informed decision vis-a-vis lifecycle management. By using storage class analysis, storage access patterns can be analyzed to help decide when to transition the right data to the right storage class. Storage class analysis provides storage access patterns which can be helpful to decide when data or objects can be moved or transitioned. This feature observes data access patterns to help determine when to transition less frequently accessed data to less frequently accessed storage class. You'll get maximum 1000 storage class analysis per bucket. We can set up analysis patterns as well, wherein we can mention to analyze the entire content of a bucket or analyze objects grouped by tags or prefixes. Storage class analysis observes the access patterns of a filtered object dataset for 30 days or longer to gather information for the analysis. Once it gets all the information, a message is displayed in the AWS S3 console. We can find out how much of data was retrieved out of total storage, what percentage of storage was retrieved, how much of storage is infrequently accessed. Also, data can be exported for future analysis. A lot of access patterns can be chalked out using this feature. This graph is showing how much of storage was retrieved over a period of time. You can see only 1 to 2 terabyte of storage or data was retrieved out of almost 8 terabyte. This graph shows storage access pattern based on age of data. The frequently accessed or infrequently accessed text shown here for each age group is actually based on the logic as per the lifecycle policy. This graph shows how much percentage of total data was actually retrieved in S3. These are very useful graphs and helps in a lot of real life scenarios. Let me go ahead and enable storage class analysis. To enable storage class analysis, you have to go to management and then click on the analytics tab. In this filter or search pane, you can mention that whether you want to create analytics for the entire bucket or for a particular prefix or tag. And then you can add filter from here. You can give it a filter name, storage class analysis filter 1, and then you can mention it for the entire bucket or for a particular prefix or key. Click on save. S3 would start analyzing your data and then it will generate report after some time. This is how we enable storage class analysis. Let's see a collective demo of lifecycle management. First, we'll set up lifecycle management for only a few objects in a bucket, and then we'll set up lifecycle management for objects with tag training. I'm moving some of the objects from the bucket to these folders. How do you move it? Click on the objects, go to more, and these are the things which you can do. Click on cut, go to the folder, click on more, and then paste. All the objects should be cut and paste from the main bucket to this subfolder. What are the other things you can do on this object? This is a shortcut. You can get the size. You can download this object. You can rename it, delete it. I have already shown you how to cut. You can copy also. You can change the storage class from here. You can change encryption level. You can change metadata. You can change the permission from here also. So this is the shortcut key for different operations on an object. I have moved objects to this folder, which is foundation, and also I have moved some objects in this AWS folder. What I'll do now is I'll create two more rules for these folders. Go to the bucket, click on management, then lifecycle, click on add lifecycle rule. In the prefix, mention AWS. See, as the objects have been moved to AWS folder, all the objects will be prefixed with the folder name, and then click on next. Rest of the things are same, whatever you want to do. So in this rule, all the objects which are prefixed with AWS will be transitioned to standard infrequent access after 30 days. Now, how do you tag objects and buckets? You have to go to individual objects, click on properties and then tags. I'll add a tag. Tag name would be key environment and value training. I'll add the same tag for this object also. You can enable tag at bucket level also. Click on properties and in advanced settings go to tags. You can add tag. So this bucket has been tagged with the key deep and value AWS-foundation. Now I'll go ahead and create lifecycle rules for the objects which have been tagged with environment training. Click add on lifecycle rule, give it a name. So creating this lifecycle rule for objects with tag key environment and value training. The rest of the things would be the same. You want to add a transition to standard underscore IA. Then if you want to configure expiration, say after 45 days. Next, review all whatever you have done. You are saying that the scope of this rule will be the entire bucket. And this rule will only be applied to objects with tag key environment and value training. Click on save. Essentially, you have created another lifecycle management rules. So all these lifecycle management rules are serving different purpose. The first one is for the entire bucket. Second one is only for objects prefixed with AWS because the objects are in AWS folder. And the third one is for objects with tag key environment and tag value training.